Welcome to Legacy Cast, where we talk about your story, your way, and what are you doing to make sure that people know about you many generations from now. Welcome to the program this morning, Legacy Cast listeners, and this is your host, James Snow, with the program Legacy Cast, where we talk about what people are doing in their lives and their businesses that are going to be able to help other people to become better and to leave a legacy, which is a story. It's your story told your way so that multiple generations from now know who you are and what you did that made a difference in the world. And so today I have a very interesting guest with me today, and his name is David Conroy. He's coming to me from the country of Ireland, in fact. And in fact, that's part of my family heritage. And so I enjoy being able to speak with David this morning and get to pick his brain a little bit about the things that life means to him and how we can really do things to be better people. So David, welcome to the program this morning.
Thank you very much, James. It's great to be here. And thank you very much for having me as a guest.
Well, it's certainly my pleasure and my honor to be able to get you here, and we make our adjustments to be able to get our time zones worked out, because you're a few hours different from us here in the US, and that's okay. That's okay. We try to do what we can to make sure that people have plenty of interesting content and be able to bridge the big gulf of water, as it were. So what I tell people each time when we're talking on Legacy Cast is a lot of people think about legacy as just a financial thing, which I don't think that it's just that. It's really a much bigger picture. Legacy is what you do that's going to make a difference. We're put here to really we're endowed by our Creator to do things that make the world a better place, and to make sure that we do something that leaves a lasting mark. And so that really should be present not only in our personal lives but also our business lives, obviously, and something that I'm very passionate about in what I do and what I tell people when I'm working with them and consulting. But what does having a legacy for you, David? What does that really mean to you?
I think having a legacy means to me is how much of an impact that you make on in your time on this earth, how much of an impact you make on other people's lives, how much you help other people. So, it took me a lot of time, and for instance, studying a little bit of Stoic philosophy and Chinese philosophy, and that realized how, and it took me a long time to realize that to separate the ego, transcend the ego, and do away with the ego and live in accordance with the laws of nature, which would involve helping your fellow man and moving forward as a group and moving forward as a species. And there's quite a lot involved in that. For instance, I have discovered, I included that the most sustainable release of serotonin is to be obtained by helping others, expecting nothing in return. Right. And this also ties into, that is by nature's design, that we feel good by helping others. Mm-hmm. And then that's why it also ties into nature's design, to leave the ego behind and move forward as a group, move forward as we. Everything should be we, what you can do for your fellow man. So I think a lot of leaving a legacy would be a part of what you can do to enhance people's lives. So, for instance, if I can help as many people as possible to think differently and think in a matter which alleviates suffering, so suffering such as stress, depression, anxiety, give them a feeling of actually living their life rather than just coasting through their life, and embracing life to the full, and embracing their life to the full without fear. Do you know what I mean? To take them out of comfort, take them out of this unconscious thinking that just has them cruising through life. And I think a good legacy to be would be as help as many people as possible and change and make as much of an impact as is possible in changing society and the way I would like society to look at itself as a society. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So as Carl Jung says, all the answers are within, look within. And I say that a group of people, for instance, a government, would have the same traits as an individual. Greed, power, compassion, the same traits as an individual would have. So I think as a collective, as a society, we should all look within. Do you know what I mean?
Oh, absolutely, absolutely, and yeah, that's something that at the core of what I do, with myself, I feel like we should be, servant leaders within our businesses, to where we are serving other people and doing things to be able to, edify the other person and to build them up and to lift them up and to help others, because you do enough of that good and you don't have to worry about what your needs are, because those will be taken care of, just by default. And so you do enough for others, and then, in the end, you're okay. And that's very, that's actually kind of an odd thing in my business, in the finance world, because, so many people are focused on, their own financial need. But, I focus on really the other person a lot more than, what my specific needs are going to be, because I know at the end of the day, I'm going to be okay.
Well, I had a terrible battle with ego. I used to have a very big ego, and then I lost everything in 2010, and the ego got crushed. And what followed after that then was the best time of my life, what I consider to be the best period of my life. For one, I was liberated from all these possessions, these material possessions, and having to pay for them, and having to go to work, and having to make more money. Because what I found was that a lot of people talk about manifesting things.
Sure.
And they talk about manifesting this and manifesting that. But I think you have to be very careful with this word manifesting. Because you can tend to manifest anything you want, and you'll tend to when you start to manifest it, you can see no reason why you can't have it. But when you manifest it, for instance, on hire purchase, then you have to pay for it. And even though you have it and you have manifested it, you now have to pay for it, which means you've now, as the Buddhists say, we strive to own material things, and then material things end up owning us.
Right.
So, and that's why the ego was crushed. And I found when the ego was crushed, it changed my whole personality and changed me as a person. But I found that I believe Freud is wrong. Freud mapped out the brain as ego, superego, and the id. And I don't believe that the ego is a part of a brain. I think it's a mindset. And what you actually have is an egotistical way of thinking. And you develop an egotistical way of thinking, which I would have developed while I was building a couple of businesses up to 2010. I would have developed a very egotistical way of thinking. Money for me, make money for me, make money. Where am I going in life? Where am I going in life?
Right.
And you say like the ego will cause suffering, and the ego does cause suffering, and did cause suffering. And I found then that when you start to look, where I came into conflict was when you started to think about moving forward again, and you move into this entrepreneurial lifestyle. So you start getting caught in the entrepreneurial groups, and you start moving forward in business again, and you start to looking to push forward. The egotistical mindset started to redevelop again. You know the way, like, for instance, if you do Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu or something like this, and then you have these skills, and you don't train them for 5 years, but then when you get caught up in an environment where you might require these skills, they all come back to you. Do you know what I mean?
Right.
And I believe that a mindset is the same, that even though the ego can be crushed, when you start to get caught up in this environment again and immerse yourself in this environment again, this past mindset comes back to this is the mindset that you use to survive in this environment. Do you know what I mean? And it's only through conscious thought that you can actually become aware of this ego and transcend it. But you have to do so by adapting your environment and through your perspective, which, for example, which I do by... I was in an entrepreneurial group recently, and I found the ego starting to develop and the egotistical thinking started to develop. So in order to balance it out, I joined a Stoic group, and debating in that would really transcend your ego, because the boys really, really bring you back down to earth and back to working in accordance with the laws of nature. And as I say, it's a much, I believe it's a much nicer way to live. And as you pointed out, that what their belief is that if you work virtuously, rationally and socially and in society, that universe will reward you with abundance. And I believe this also to be true, rather than just adapting an egotistical mindset where you say, rather than force life, you work according to the laws of nature, and the universe will reward you with abundance.
Sure. So if you're to look at your business, maybe from and its future, we'll kind of look at it from the CEO standpoint for a minute. If you're looking at your business, what are some things maybe that kind of keep you up at night, that concern you about business?
That concern me about business? Well, to be honest with you, lately, not too much.
Okay.
Because Not too much at all, because before there was a lot of things would have kept me up at night. Because I would have had this egotistical way of thinking. And what comes with the egotistical way of thinking is that you think, I should have. Why am I not where I'm supposed to be? I've done this, I've done X, Y, and Z, and I should be at point Z, but I'm not at point Z.
Right.
But, you know, and this is how the ego causes you to suffer. You start to look up and you say, why am I not where I'm supposed to be? I should be, everybody should be watching my videos now. I should be making more money than I am. I should be, I'm not, you know what I mean?
Right.
And this is suffering that comes from these expectations. And it took me a long time to learn this, to just work virtuously and just do your thing every day and focus on your purpose, what you believe your purpose in life to be. And focus on this and work on this every day without expectation, without saying, I know that technically, and if you put together a business plan, you should have, I should have this by this time, I should have this by this time, and then I should have this by this time. And the old way of working is I would have worked like this. But now working as an individual, I don't work like this. I just, every day I make my video, every day I attend to my clients. Like every day I phone my clients, I do I ring my clients 3 times a week. That's how I work on their mindset. I ring them 3 times a week. And I do this. And I was only thinking today, you see, and that's what happened last week. Sometimes the egotistical mindset can come back in and you start to say to yourself, I'm going to force, let's go chase money. And for instance, the fastest way of doing this, I may back up this online business by going to the stock market. But this is the thinking that causes suffering. So I rather to go back to the one of no expectations and just go about my business every day, virtuously, rationally, and socially.
Okay. So
and it might sound like a strange way of doing business, but it's much easier on the head, if you know what I mean.
Oh, yeah. So do you believe it's important that people create some sort of strategy, though, with their business and have kind of that business plan, as you were mentioning, to be able to follow that?
Well, I'll tell you how I see it. Mm-hmm. I believe, yes, make a plan. And yes, make a plan. But what your plan then would be, the way I see it is that once you learn to be present, you become conscious that the only thing that dictates your reality or your future is how you spend the present moment.
Okay.
And once you become once with this realization, then you become more conscious of how you spend the present moment. Once you become aware that the only thing that dictates your reality or your future, no matter how much you visualize things, no matter how much you write things down on paper, you realize that the only thing that dictates your future or your reality or your future is how you spend the present moment. So yes, by all means, make a plan. And by all means, even like I will sit down with my diary the night before, and according to my plan, I will write out what I'd like to get done the next day.
Okay.
And I will go through that plan, and I will work to an overall plan. For instance, my social media exposure, I will make a video and I'll share it across several platforms, and I might put my videos on YouTube. That would be my plan. Mm-hmm. And this and now your podcast, as much exposure as it can possibly get, and I work on this plan.
Okay.
But as I say, a lot of my plan is based on how you spend the present moment. So really, like, whereas you don't force life, if you become conscious, if you say like things aren't happening fast enough, you might ask yourself, how are you spending your present moments? Are they conducive to achieving your vision? Do you know what I mean?
Sure. Yeah, and that's a good way of kind of putting that, because a lot of us we start worrying about the things that are not happening quickly enough, and really should maybe step back and look at what are those key processes that we're going through presently that will impact what our future is.
Well, I also feel that you have to identify what is within your control and what is not. Mm-hmm. And it's only through clear eyes that you can see this. So I think you have to first of all ask yourself, this is why mindset is so important. I think you first of all have to, this is why it's important to have the ability to perceive, the ability to gratitude. You have to develop the mindset. And this is what clears your eyes and allows you to see what is within your control and what is not. And then you once you realize this, you work more on what is within your control. For example, how you spend the present moment.
Sure.
And what not. So, for instance, I have no control over who will watch my videos. And you realize this is outside your control. Mm-hmm. But you can maximize your exposure by, for example, being here with yourself today.
Yeah, and that's something that here in the U.S., here in the States, is very very difficult for us. Just as a culture, that we worry about the things that we can't control. I find a lot of people here do spend a lot of energy worrying about the things that are not really within their grasp, not things that they can push the needle, so to speak. And if you, like you say, if you don't worry about those things, then that takes a whole lot of the pressure off of you as a person, because really nothing that we could do is actually going to affect those things. So why should we spend any energy on it?
Well, not only that, but it's very likely that it's going to cause you anxiety.
Yeah.
If you're living in the future, and you see, I see all this people talk about anxiety and everything else, and I suffered with anxiety. I was crippled with bad anxiety, and a lot of it came from having the very same philosophy as you've just described. The Americans, I worrying about things that are not within their control. For instance, like, why are people not viewing my videos? Why am I not getting the exposure I should be getting? Things that are outside your control. And this what causes anxiety, because then you start to see what's to become of me. And there's this big hole in your future, because I find that what a lot of people do that cause anxiety is you don't have a vision. You have a full video starring you of the run-up to this vision, of how you're actually going to achieve this vision. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
Like, I was guilty of this. I was guilty of this. Yes, I believe in visualization. I was guilty of visualization, and I still believe in visualization. But I believe have a vision, not a full video starring you on how you're going to achieve the vision. Mm-hmm. So I believe that worrying about things that are outside your control is where a lot of the anxiety comes from. And then what we have big pharma who come along and they treat the symptoms of this thinking, but they don't actually treat the cause of the anxiety. And the cause of this anxiety is living in the future and worrying about things that are outside of control. But when you actually come back to the present and view our life from the present moment, the anxiety goes, and now you can have your vision. And the question is you don't try and manifest it through starring in a video. You live in the present, and if you want to achieve your vision, you become, as I say, conscious of how you're spending the present moment.
Yep. So what do you think, as far as other business owners, what do you think causes them to either fail or just give up when they're trying to run a business?
I think a lot of it comes from expectations, and when they don't meet the expectations that they feel they should be in a certain point, being a certain point. Do you know what I mean? When they don't make the projections that they feel they should make, this is very disheartening. I also feel I have always argued with, when do you draw a line? Because often people say, you can be so close and just another little bit. But I believe you have to draw a line, and you have to say, push something, and either roads or doesn't roll. But I believe that you give something a certain amount of time, and if it's not working, you move on, especially if it's costing you money.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? If it's costing you money. But yeah, a lot of it depends on your own belief, on how much you believe in something. And while that belief still stands, I believe you should stay fighting.
Yeah, and that kind of leads me to one of the next questions I was going to be mentioning is, a lot of people feel like they should inject their value system or their beliefs into their work. Some people believe you should keep that completely separate, that it should be just business and don't put your personal belief structure in the business. How do you feel about that, and what do you do?
I believe it's very important to put your virtual values into your business.
Okay.
I think it's very, very important, because number one, if you develop the way of thinking that I was talking about earlier, where it's no ego, we go. You don't say, ye work for me, how much money have you made me? How much money have I made? You say to your employees, we're all in this together. We're all moving forward. How are we going? How are we going as a business? And that way of thinking, if you bring in those values to your business, I think it's going to be much more productive for your business. Because no matter what, all anybody wants in life is to feel valued. And this makes them feel valued. And if people feel valued in a job, the production goes up. Because they now feel valued. That's all they want to feel in a job, in a relationship, in life. People just want to feel valued. And not taken for granted, not feel they're a number. If people feel they're a number in a job, that's when they lose heart and they just punch in their days. Right. But if they actually feel they're working for something greater than just a wage, now they feel valued, and now they give you 110%, and they're more inclined to help others and work as a collective.
Yeah, so
that's very important. The first of all, if you don't have these values, to create these values and adapt these values, and then yes, apply them to your workforce.
So what would you say maybe some roadblocks would be that people should look out for? Some trouble signs in their business.
Well, for instance, I think a troublesome sign that should look for is a sort of not a mutiny, but a disheartening of their staff, a loss of morale with their staff, where this divide comes in that creates the divide of you and them. I think if that divide comes in, it's detrimental to a business. And I've seen it in a lot of businesses, especially in America. It can very often be, from my understanding, and I spent a short little time in America, but from my understanding, it can very much be the union against the management. And that, I think that divide is detrimental to a business. I think it's better to close that divide and listen to your people and value the people. And I think that it's detrimental to a business to let that thinking come into a workforce where it's you and them and where they come to work to make a wage. I think what you should do is encourage them to feel a part of the business.
So what is something that earlier in your life you did not do that you wish you probably would have at this point?
Oh. Well, to be honest with you, James, I often ask myself, have I any regrets? And I don't. Mm-hmm. Because it would be easy to say, I'd like to look back and I'd like to change things. For instance, what led me to go and bust? What led to before a point I would have looked back and I would have said, oh, I'm a victim of circumstance. And I didn't do this right, and I didn't do this right, and I could have done this, and I could have done this, and that would have saved my business. And then I would have been able to stay afloat. Right. Like I might have said, I shouldn't. Like when things went up here, I moved to England to work. I had a lift installation business, and I moved to England to work. And I was on a natural burn rate. I was on a very high burn rate, and the economy had dropped down here, and everybody kept saying to me, oh, do the next lift, and then everything will come right. And everything will come right. The recession will nearly be over. But pride kept me where I was. I didn't know what was to become of me. Fear came in. I wouldn't come home because what was I going to do? I wouldn't come home, and I was on this unnatural burn rate, and I wouldn't come home. I didn't tell my girlfriend at the time the true way things were. Pride got in the way, because no way would I admit that. I was afraid, what am I going to do with the rest of my life? Anxiety kicked in, depression kicked in, everything kicked in, and I became so fearful of what was to become of me that I wouldn't even come home until every last penny was gone. And I suppose I could look back and I could say, I wish I'd come home. I wish I'd taken a different route. I could have taken the last of my money and invested in a different business. I went in a different direction. Mm-hmm. But the other side of that is, as I say, from 2010 to 2015 turned out to be the best years of my life, when I transcended the ego. And I remember that time I spent an awful lot of my time in solitude, and I knew no other way of life. I spent a lot of my time in solitude because I used to be working. I had a few people work for me, and they used to give them their lift apiece. I do my own work, so I spent a lot of time in a lift shaft on my own, and then I'd spend a lot of time in hotel rooms working away on my own. So a lot of time in solitude, and I knew no other living, knew other life. But when I lost everything, then I got this awakening, because I started to come home and I started to smell the flowers. And I started to sit on a swing swung out the back and look up and notice the stars. I started listening to music, and I seen this whole other life going on around me that I absolutely had no awareness of at all. Like, life had so much life and so much nature and so much beauty and so much everything that I completely was unaware of through just this tunnel vision of making money. You know what I mean?
Right.
And I imagine that I hadn't lost everything. And imagine if I hadn't got this awareness and I had just kept this tunnel vision through the other half of my life. And if I just I got this tunnel vision for the other half of my life, concerned with nothing, only making money. Mm-hmm. And I would have just lost this whole awareness and this whole beautiful way of life. I would have lost it. And that's what I'm trying to protect now. I'm trying to move forward in business, but at the same time keeping this whole awareness and connectivity to nature. You know?
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? I don't want to lose this. I don't want to go back into this. I think when you get caught up in the whole entrepreneurial lifestyle, you can easily go down this tunnel. Mm-hmm. Like in the entrepreneur group that I was in, every post is about money, and it's all about making money. And then when you, for instance, go into the Stoicism group, mm-hmm. and you start to talk about the foundation of a reality, there's so much more to life. And yes, money does buy us freedoms. It really, really does. And I have no objective to making money, but I think it should be how you make the money.
Right. So was this something that was kind of obvious to you that you discovered, or you kind of just stumbled upon that during that time period?
Which period?
During the time, after you lost everything and then started discovering this enlightenment. Was it just kind of a light bulb moment, or did you sort of stumble upon that over time?
What I decided to do was, number one, I decided I didn't want to go that direction again. I have said before that once you get enough of a kicking in an industry, or once you get enough of a kicking in life, there's this mental block that stops you going back for more. And it's very, very hard to overcome this. So I decided that this industry, I had never really, I had this business putting in lifts, and I made a lot of money, but I wasn't enjoying life. I didn't particularly enjoy the job. I found it repetitive, and I found it repetitive and monotonous, but I was making money, and plenty of money. So really, I felt I'd sold my life. Do you know what I mean? Sure. I'd spent maybe 12, 14 hours a day in a lift shaft. I was never home. I bought a house. I was never in it for 11 years. And I found that what I wanted, I haven't lost everything. And I said, everything is gone now. Everything is gone now. You can keep it. I have no need to go to work. I have no need to pay for anything. They took everything. So I said to myself, I'm now, as they say, when you have nothing left to lose, you have nothing left to lose. So I was now free to choose a different direction in life. So I decided what I'm going to do is I'm going to take some time out to actually choose rather than, and this brings me back to the conscious thought again, rather than unconsciously fall down a different path or unconsciously let life unfold outside my control. I decided to take more of a conscious involvement and actually choose what I want to do. Because me ended up in the business I was in had been through default nearly, you know what I mean? Through following the footsteps of what your father would have done and what your mother would have expected of you and everything else. And I then decided that having this experience in life, I wanted a different experience in life. So I took some time out to actually I suppose, have a look at life and have a look at what I wanted to do, make conscious choice, what I want to do with the rest of my life. And for this, I had to find myself. And I had to discover myself. And this brought me down a whole rabbit hole of discovery.
So is there perhaps some other kind of profession out there that you would, other than what you're doing now, that you think you'd want to attempt? Or do you think you pretty much found where you belong?
Well, I have attempted several. I have had 2 gyms since I had the lift business. I've opened 2 gyms and I clothing ranges online and that sort of thing. But I found with the gyms that I found that I know what I encourage people to do is ask the question, how do you want to live? But I also think you have to be very careful with this question of how you want to live. So, for instance, I would have asked this question, how do I want to live? And I would have said to myself, oh, I want to own a gym because I like bodybuilding and I'd enjoy my life and I think I'd enjoy bodybuilding. But so I set this vision, I went on this path and I opened the gym. But I think that when you ask this question, how do I want to live? There's a lot of factors that you have to factor in when you're making this choice. Like, for instance, what has to be sacrificed to facilitate this life. For example, I found that when I opened the gym, I made a prison for myself. I was in that gym from 9:30 in the morning till 11 o'clock at night. And where you could say, oh, you could have paid someone to be there. At the time, especially starting now, for the first 3 years, that's not viable. You know what I mean?
Right.
So you have to, and these are things that you have to think about. So when we're moving forward in life, so I said to myself now, how do I want to live? And I came to the conclusion, how I want to live is I want to travel. I want to travel the world and experience life and experience all life in different countries and experience all sorts of different cultures and societies. And so I now think you have to base what you choose to do. You base it. That's the first question you have to ask yourself, and then you base your occupation and how you make your money around this. So in order to facilitate this, I have to make money online. Yeah. So I can't have a rent and rates business. So I think the first question you should ask yourself is, how do I want to live? Mm-hmm. And then you should facilitate your how to choose to make your living or how to choose to make your money. It should facilitate this, how you want to live.
Oh, okay. So what would you say personally is one of your greatest strengths?
Determination, ambition, tenacity.
Yeah.
That'd be my greatest strength. I don't give up. I don't quit. I'm like a dog with a bone. I just don't let go. Mm-hmm. And I think I'm a visionary. If I have an idea, I generally don't listen to the naysayers. If I think it's a good idea, I'll push it. It either rolls or it doesn't. It either rolls or it doesn't. Right. But I don't listen to the naysayers. I'll push forward with lots of things. I'm a risk taker. I love risk. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So what would you say maybe is your greatest weakness then?
Oh, my greatest weakness. No, I'm too soft. I'm too soft in that. I'm too soft in that I don't value myself enough. I find it hard to value myself. And this is a really, really, really big problem. Mm. Because I love to help people. So, for example, when I owned the gym, when people come in and they ask me for personal training, I found it very hard to say that's X amount of euros per hour, because you work out a maximum value on what you think you should be worth. But I always have trouble in applying this. And when you don't value yourself, if you value yourself, for example, at nothing, and you say, oh, you're all right, I'll help you for free, it's grand. Now you've set the value of nothing on yourself. And you can't really blame anybody else for putting the same value on you. You have set this value. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
I'm really, 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 really trying to get around this. And I now have adopted the philosophy and I'm trying to apply it, because it is the truth that if people pay, if they put some skin in the game, that's when they apply themselves.
Right.
Like I could come on here and I could try and help you with your mindset. But unless you put some skin in the game, unless you pay me, and the more you pay me, the more you apply yourself. And that is the truth. Yes. So really, I'm trying to apply the philosophy that I'm helping you by charging you.
Right.
Do you know what I mean? It's more beneficial for you for me to charge you. And I'm really, really, really trying to apply this philosophy. And I really have trouble doing this. And it's right now, it is my biggest weakness.
Yeah, and I've talked to a lot of people that do have kind of that same block, is that they don't want to they don't want to lose the business, but in fact you end up losing the business because you didn't value yourself that much.
It's not even about losing the business. It's the fact that they say your relationship goes back to childhood. And I remember, and it very possibly does, that your relationship with money. You see, they say that the most developmental years. It's Freud says that the most developmental years, and Jung says the same, that the most developmental years are between 0 and 7. That's when most of the conditioning of your consciousness is done. Mm-hmm. And I remember when I was only small, my father used to take us to a hurling match every Sunday. And if the hurling match was a substantial distance away, so if it was, say, 20, 30 miles away, you'd always ask your father on the way home, you'd all be getting into the car, there was 5 or 6 of us in it, and you'd be saying, we stopped in a shop on the way home. And he used to give us all then 20 pence if we were stopping at a shop on the way home, and you go in and you buy some sweets. But sometimes you used to think to yourself and you say, I'll keep my 20 pence, and next week I'll have 40 pence, I'll be able to buy twice as much. So your father then, when you get into the car, the father used to say to us, well, what did you buy and what did you buy? What did you buy? And you say, oh no, I kept mine. I'm going to buy something else. I'm going to buy something bigger next week. But next week then, when he'd be handing out the 20 pences, he would say to you, you already have one. So you get this way of thinking that you blow every penny you have. And that's the way I've been all my life. I had very little regard for money. I still do blow every penny I have. I have very little regard for money. So, whereas I do have a value, I do like I do put a value on lifestyle. For example, I want to travel, and I have to make money to travel, and I do like nice things, but I believe on the whole acquisition of nice things, it should be bought on a want, not on a need, if you know what I mean.
Sure.
And I think that's very important for society to take this as well. That it's very important to like, the Stoics think that we're rational beings, but I don't believe we're rational beings, because I think everything above base need is bought on an emotion, how we expect to feel. Right. And I think that we should become rational beings and do so through conscious thinking. So, for instance, if you want to buy a Ferrari, you don't buy it because it makes you happy. You should already be happy. You buy it because you want it.
Right.
Did you see you know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think if you buy it on emotion, you're going to run into problems.
That's very true. That's very true.
But a lot of products are bought on an emotion. It's the basis of marketing.
Yeah, you're absolutely right there. And there's people that make businesses built around the whole philosophy. So where do you get your best ideas? Maybe in nature, or is there a certain place you go to where you do your thinking? Where do you get those ideas?
I now what I do is I'm after developing this awareness and this connectivity to nature, because I now believe we're all one. So what I like to do is I like to go out and walk by the river. And I get great ideas from this. Really, really great ideas. I also get great ideas from, I believe we're products of our environment.
Sure.
I believe we're products of our environment. And people think that, I need to change my whole life to change your environment. But the most easiest way to change your environment is this device here in front of us. Mm-hmm. This is, it used to be the television. I threw out my television 8 or 9 years ago, about 9 years ago, because I wanted to choose how to program my conscious. And I believe I didn't want to be programmed by a hive mind. Do you know what I mean?
Right, sure.
So this phone has now become the device that most, not the television, but this, and companies are now very, very quickly catching on to this, that this phone here in our hand is very quickly becoming the device that programs our conscious more than anything else, because it's constantly streaming to our conscious. So in order to change the program our conscious and to change our thinking, I think the best way to do this is Facebook groups. For instance, the Humble Man, entrepreneur groups like Stephen Cunn's Immediate Impact, the Humble Man, Coffee with Dan, entrepreneur groups, and also balance it out with, say, the Stoicism group, where you now balance the ego with the humility. So I think that by changing our environment, we can change the way we think. And I think we can program our own conscious by choosing and editing our news feed, for example, in this. But also, we can also choose our outside environment. But I think one of the easiest ways of changing our environment and creating an environment conducive to how we want to think is through this, editing our feed on this and Facebook groups.
Yeah.
And other forms of social media. But edit it conducive to how we want to program our conscious. In other words, choose how we program our conscious.
So if you're just describe your business kind of from a very high level to somebody maybe that wants to do what you're doing, how would you describe that?
How would I describe what I do?
Correct.
What I do is, for example, I work with different people. For example, if somebody has anxiety, what I would teach them how to do is to become present. And this is what I would focus on most. The most important thing they have to do is to become present. And for this, I would teach them different breathing techniques, and I would teach them how to become aware of what tense they're in. So, for instance, as Natch Tim says, feelings may go and feelings may come, but conscious breathing is my anchor. So you become conscious of your breath. That's the first day one. So conscious of your breath, conscious of the breath in, and conscious of the breath out. And this brings us to the present moment, because the present moment, we can only breathe in the present moment. We can't breathe in the past, and we can't breathe in the future. Right. And once you grasp this concept, and what that will give you, it'll start to give you moments. And if you start to do this in nature, you develop in those moments, you get to become very aware of nature, this wonderful connectivity with nature, but you only get moments. And then you have to work on this. And how you work on this then is when you might be out walking nature, or you might go about your day. Now, whenever you sit down, you might just do this breath and be conscious of your breathing, and that will bring you to the present moment. Mm-hmm. And after this, then, it's very important to catch your tense. Become aware of what tense am I in. For example, are you thinking about a barbecue last week? Now you're in the past tense. Are you thinking about your holidays in September? Now you're in the future tense. And catch that and bring it back to the present moment. Do you know what I mean? Say to yourself, oh my God, I'm in the future, and bring it back. Consciously bring it back, either through breathing or just after a while, you don't even need the breathing. You just consciously bring it back to the present moment. And once you start to do this consciously, the more you do this consciously, it becomes unconscious. So first it must be conscious, and you might have to, depending on your ability to adapt, you do this you make this conscious for a certain level of time, and then it becomes unconscious. And this is how you learn to live in the present moment. Now, that'd be for someone suffering with anxiety or depression or something like that. Then for business people who come to me and they want to develop a mindset, for instance, they want more motivation, or they want to apply more focus, or they want to, or this sort of thing. One thing I think you have to be very careful of in this job is not to impose your way of thinking on them.
Sure.
You have to let them choose how they want to live, and you have to let them choose how they want to think. But for this, what you would do is teach them how to ask the right questions. So you would teach them, about gratitude. For instance, one person, I was teaching about gratitude, but he wasn't very comfortable with gratitude, or seemed to have it. But that's okay. If he chooses that might come to him in the future. But meanwhile, we move on with perception, and we teach him how to perceive. So we teach him that there are different perspectives. So a lot of people go through life and they only see everything with how they are. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Sure. You see things not as they are, but as you are. And they go through life seeing things as they are. So what I do is I teach them to see things, that there are other ways of seeing things, and they can choose a different perspective. And by choosing a different perspective, they very much get to think how they see fit rather than I see fit. Do you know what I mean?
Sure, sure.
What I do is I teach them how to notice that there are different perspectives, and I also introduce them to gratitude if they choose to see gratitude. But this comes with being present. You become grateful for all that you have, as little or as much as it may be. And this brings a great sense of gratitude alone. To practice gratitude alone, it just brings such a sense of relief and such a sense of a mindset. Gratitude alone brings such a peaceful mindset that you wouldn't believe. But if they're open to this, I teach them this. But basically, my point is, whatever they want to do, whatever mindset they want to develop, I help them to develop this mindset. But I help them to develop it through awareness and conscious thought. So by doing this, I ask them questions. I ask them questions to make them aware of how they're living and make them aware. And make them aware of by asking questions. For example, like for example, I give them exercises in perception. I give them exercises in perception, exercises in awareness, things to think about over 2 days, and then we come back and we talk about how, for example, an exercise in perception, and once they view, for example, how other people perceive them, do they want to change anything in this light? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Basically, to be is to be perceived. A lot of people believe that other people's perception of them is not their business. I don't believe this to be true, because other people's perception of them impacts on their life in a big way.
So how would people get a hold of you, since we're kind of wrapping up our time this morning together? How would people get a hold of you so that they can contact you and talk to you, potentially be able to get some counsel from you?
Well, I think the way I've gone now is through social media, and I think the best way is my Facebook page and through Messenger is my favorite way at the moment. Okay,
and what are those contacts?
David Conroy on Facebook, and Messenger again, David Conroy. And I have a phone number as well, but it's 00353 89. Jesus Christ. What's 252-358? Oh wait, 252-358-2. Jeez, I have that number for years, and I'm always able to say it. So that's 00353 89 252-3582. You know, but Facebook and Messenger is my favorite. I have a couple of YouTube channels, but they're from different businesses, and I'm only starting the YouTube channel now for my present business. You know.
Okay. Well, people, that's how you can get a hold of David Conroy and be able to learn how to control your mindset and develop yourself to be in a better sense.
The best you. You know what I mean? I also do nutrition and I do training if they want to completely transform.
Well, very good, very good. And David, thank you for the time that we've had this morning, and it's been very enlightening and very entertaining. And I look forward to seeing you again in the groups that we're common with. And being able to see kind of how things be able to develop and grow for each other.
Thank you very much, James. It was a great pleasure, and thank you very much for having me as a guest.
Well, thank you, and you have a great day and a great week ahead of you.
Thank you, James. Thank you very much, and same to you.